The NHL regular season is winding down, and the Dallas Stars have the second wildcard spot in the Western Conference. They have 91 points, tied with the Nashville Predators, and they are just 4 points ahead of the Vegas Golden Knights. And joining me now to discuss the Dallas Stars, I have AJ Tellers and Jeremiah Russo. How's it going, guys?
Excited for hockey to get down to the playoffs.
I mean, when you're at this time of the year, playoff hockey is where it's at. So, we're just excited.
It is certainly coming down to the wire. 6 games left for the Stars. AJ, I want to start with you. They have that second spot in the wild card right now. Can the Stars hold on?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're really in an advantageous position where you look where Dallas is with those 6 games. 3 of them are not only against non-playoff teams, they're at home. And those are very important games, must-win games because, like you said, they're looking down at the Vegas Golden Knights who are trailing them. They have a key game with them coming up. But if Dallas can win those 3 games at home, it'll put them in a position to where they can clinch a playoff spot in that game with Vegas by just getting a point, even if Vegas were to win out. So, all in all, a good spot, but they got to take care of business in this opportunistic stretch.
I know we're all looking forward to the Vegas Golden Knights game, but that's not the biggest concern, I would say. Just like we mentioned earlier, the Nashville Predators are tied with them with 91 points. So, and then we look at Nashville's schedule. They are facing the harder teams. They got to go against Calgary. They got to go against Tampa. They got to go against Minnesota. And so I would say that they kind of have the harder route, but also not to just try to be ahead of the Vegas Golden Knights, only because if you try to give yourself that kind of lead, then you're going to be stuck, and now you're going to be out of the playoff spot. So I say, you just got to battle against the Nashville Predators, and they have their schedule, you have yours. Just go do your thing.
Yeah, I think you don't want to overlook the next opponent, and that goes for any sport. You don't want to overlook them because then you're going to lose that game. I want to ask you, Jeremiah, so we both mentioned the Golden Knights, and they have 1 game against them. Do you think that it's one of those games where the playoff hopes of the Stars rest there, or can they afford to lose that one?
Kind of a half and half because, you gotta you can't just worry about the Vegas Golden Knight game. Obviously, it's a big game for you to have, but you also have to wonder and play against all Edmonton Oilers. That's going to be a big one, especially tomorrow night. So, yes and no, only because you need to worry about your next opponent and not worry about the opponent in 3 games. Because just like I said, if you start doing that, you're going to find yourself in a 3-game skid, and we're not even going to have this conversation. Now it's going to be, what are we going to do in the offseason?
Yeah.
Like I said, there's a possibility for that game to really have implications, but if the Stars, they win those 3 games at home, won't have to come away with anything more than a point.
So let's discuss playoffs. All right, let's say the Stars make it, they get the point, they're in the playoffs. AJ, can they win a series?
On the surface, yes, absolutely. You get in, you have a shot, but here's the thing. The real priority here should only be getting into the playoffs, but trying to get that number 1 wildcard spot because you can avoid having to face off with the Colorado Avalanche, who very well could hold up the cup at the end of the year. They're going to most likely be up against a Calgary Flame team that features a 100-point scorer, Johnny Gaudreau, Matt Tkachuk, a very high-scoring team, one of the top goal-scoring teams in the league. And the good part about this Dallas team is the line number 1. Their top line with Hintz, Pavelski, and Robertson could play with anybody. They're outscoring opponents from that line 45-32, but when those 3 players are off the ice, they're being outscored 88-64. They have to have production from Sagan, from Ben, from Radulov. Klingberg can't be the -23 defender he's been this season. It's going to take a lot of scoring, and it's going to be an uphill battle no matter how well they play with how good those teams are.
It certainly will be, and Stars fans, I think they're kind of taking things out of perspective. It's a tough year for the playoffs. They're at 91 points. They're 5 points away from their best season since 2008. Now, Jeremiah, I want to talk. They've had a good year. Who has been your team MVP?
I got to give it to the Otter, man. You take a look at him. He came into the playoffs in the 2020 bubble against Tampa Bay. What are you going to do there? I'm sorry, you're a rookie and you're 22. But, this season, absolutely insane. He's already doubled his record. He's 27-14-1. Absolutely something crazy for a 23-year-old goalie to be put in that starter position. And I think, if they help me God, if we play Colorado, just second off, if they play Colorado, they didn't have Jake Ottinger. They beat them in 2020, but it's also a different team. So I feel like if we have to go that route, I'm praying God we don't. Please, Dallas, I think we have a good shot, but obviously I got to give it to my boy Jake Ottinger, man.
I love Jason Robertson, and how I mentioned the top line's been so important. They've been carrying this offense. Nobody has driven this offense better than Jason Robertson in his second full season. This is a guy, 70 points, 36 goals, 34 assists. Nobody on the Stars is as skilled or as exciting to watch. He's scoring all over the offensive zone, highlight goals night in, night out. And for a guy that really replaced Tyler Seguin into that front line role on the first line, I think he's a guy, not only is he going to be here for a long time, hopefully, but right now he's one of the best players they've got going into this playoff
And then I'll throw
series.
this in quickly. Even both of our guys, Jason Robertson's 22.
Yeah.
Ottinger's 23. You have a great young team right now, so I'm just hoping, we can get these guys going, especially not really having that playoff experience, and we'll just see where it goes from there.
Well, you certainly do in the Stars. They have just 6 games left until they make that push for a second Stanley Cup title, hopefully. But coming up, the team that shares the American Airlines Center with them, the Dallas Mavericks, tied their playoff series at 1. More on that next.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Many medicines used to treat colds and flu contain acetaminophen, a pain reliever and fever reducer found in hundreds of over-the-counter and prescription medicines. But taking too much or more than one medication containing acetaminophen per day can damage your liver. So always read the label and don't take acetaminophen if you drink 3 or more alcoholic drinks every day. To learn more, visit fda.gov/OTC pain info. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Food and Drug Administration.
When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover their unique mix of all kinds of traits.
Where'd Wiley go? Where's Wiley? Ah, there she is. Paw,
Do you remember being an ancient wolf? You ever feel the call of the wild?
you're a renegade cop, and I'm a con woman with nothing to prove. But together, we could really solve this murder.
They're a little bit of a lot of things, but all of them are pure love.
Come on! Go, Diane! Yeah, keep it going! Yeah! Go, honey!
If you love them enough to drive an hour to cheer them on as they get beat 11-0 in the rain, then surely you'll check NHTSA.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
Throw that ball, Diane! Woo! You got this!
But last night, they bounced back with a Dirk Nowitzki tribute from Jalen Brunson, 41 points for the Dallas Mavericks to tie that series at 1. And joining me now to discuss the Mavericks, I have Caleb Blanton and I have Anthony Council. How's it going?
It's going good. I like to play on words with the 41. That was,
Yes,
that was good.
yes,
That was
it's Dirk,
Hey.
and what better place to do it than at home? So I want to start with you, Anthony. What have your overall thoughts on this series? What have they been?
They've been stellar. Game 1 was a little iffy. They were not great from the percentage. The Jazz shot 43% from the field goal range. They shot 87 from the free throw line. But Game 2 was a completely different story. Just like what Alex said, the key numbers I'm giving you guys is 22, 22, and 41. Jalen Brunson dropped 41 points, knocked it out of the park, especially from the three-point line. 22 threes for the Mavericks and 22 assists for the Mavs, which was phenomenal. That was just a fantastic game from the Mavericks. And I think that they will be able to take the dub for Game 3, hopefully.
What do you think, Caleb?
Yeah, so in Game 1, it didn't go as well as you would want, but obviously Luka wasn't there, so that's a big reason why. But also in the second half, they didn't really play that well offensively, and Donovan Mitchell was playing pretty well in the second half as well. But in the second game, they did a lot better. Like you said, they made 22 threes. Maxey made 8 of 11 from 3, so they were really good from 3, and that was a big reason why they won. If they can keep that up, that would be great.
It's all about that next man up in basketball, and Maxey Kleber had his first double-digit game since the game before the All-Star break. So, Caleb, can the Mavs continue to win without Luka Doncic?
Yeah. It's the Jazz, so it's not as hard of an opponent.
Yeah.
But obviously Luka is very important, so it does play a factor. But they can definitely win.
Do you agree?
I mean, you got to be careful with Donovan Mitchell. That's the biggest thing. Donovan Mitchell was able to do an easy step back three from range multiple times. And that's the scary part about it. I mean, look, Rudy Gobert, he can't guard anybody. I'm sorry. That's just the facts. He's just a big body, and when he tries to go out and try to help, you're going to get an easy three from either Jordan Finney-Smith or even Dwight Powell from the three-point line. So can the Jazz win? Probably not, but will the Mavs win? I think they can win without Luka. I mean, you saw it yesterday, and, if they just keep it up, I think they can go far.
I feel like the Jazz really aren't that good of a basketball team.
They're not.
Like, it's one of those teams where they got into the playoff because they played really well that first part of the regular season, and then they kind of fell apart. Not great, but I think the Mavs, they're going to keep going without Luka. You want to keep him healthy because if you get to that second round, it's going to be ugly because you might be playing a team like Phoenix. I do want to go back to the Spurs game, though. So it's the last game of the year. The Mavericks, they've already clinched at least the 4th seed. They had a shot at the 3rd. Caleb, was it a mistake to play Luka?
Yeah, it was a huge mistake. I mean, you already clinched a playoff spot. It's the last game of the season. There's no reason to play him, and he got injured, so it's not a good thing. The Mavs lost game 1 because of that, most likely. I mean, when you have him missing, it's a big deal. So that was a big reason.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a light in the dark, honestly. I mean, he got a technical foul that second to last game, and then the NBA decided to take that technical out and put him in for the last game, and it was like, do you really need to play? Probably not. Let's just save for the playoffs. So, yeah.
I mean, the only thing is you can get that 3rd seed, which now, of course, that revolves on Golden State losing that game to the Pelicans. Of course, they win.
Right.
But I do understand why they played him. Of course, I wish the NBA wouldn't have called that tech back, so he would have stayed healthy. We'd be seeing a different series so far, certainly. I want to very quickly discuss, though, let's say for some reason we don't make it out of the first round of the playoffs. Anthony, what do the Mavs need to do in the offseason?
The offseason, I think you guys just have to keep the same structure that you have. Sign Jalen Brunson. Don't let him go walk. Make that contract. Make him sign it, and keep those key players. If they don't make it, then try to get a star player, not a super high caliber player, maybe like a Miles Turner, so that you can have a big body, in the paint for you guys for next season, and just keep the players that you have currently.
Do you agree?
I mean, I think you can add another star player. I mean, as you see in the league, to win a championship, you need multiple stars. So they need to add someone. I think you can add someone like Miles Turner. They've been linked to him.
Yes.
He's a good three-point shooter. He's a good defender. He creates floor spacing. So that would be a great addition, I think, for the Mavs.
I think for the Mavs, it's all about just getting a big man down low because they haven't really had a true number 5. I mean, Porzingis, yes, but he was made of glass.
Right. And I mean, they have big men. They have Dwight Powell, you know, and I think Dwight Powell and Kleba, they do a great job because they're making it very hard for Rudy Gobert to get physical and really hard for him to get baskets. So I think they're doing a great job being aggressive and attacking him over and over. That's one of the biggest things that they did in the second game. It certainly
is, and they need to stay aggressive for Game 3. It's going to be Thursday night in Salt Lake City once again with the Jazz. They're going to be looking to take that 2-1 lead. And coming up next, we're going to talk about the first round of the playoffs with a little NBA this or that.
Used to say a long time.
Every year, 40% of all food in the U.S. never gets eaten.
40%. That's almost half the food we produce.
Food waste is a serious problem. It impacts all of us.
And it's expensive. Your family is throwing $1,500 a year in the trash.
We're working hard to put food waste on the chopping block.
And you can do the same at home.
Learn how to cook it, store it, and share it.
Just don't waste it.
Go to SaveTheFood.com.
Play Eric Amarola's Race Day Mix.
Welcome back into Sportzone. I am your host, Alec Rapp. The first round of the NBA playoffs has been exhilarating with standout performances, an insane buzzer beater from Jason Tatum, and more. And joining me now to discuss the first round of the playoffs, I have Mason Shepard and Malcolm Smith. How's it going, guys?
It's going great.
Good. So I want to start with the beginning of the playoffs. So there's been a lot of controversy the past couple of years. The NBA, they switch over to the play-in tournament, and you have 4 teams from the East and the West making it, and they go on and they get those last 2 spots in each of their respective conferences. So Mason, I want to start with you. Should the NBA stick with this, or should they go back to what they used to do?
All right, NBA fans, let me talk to you. Woo! All right, so honestly, I like the play-in tournament. You know, I know that the biggest con about it is like, oh, it gives teams who don't deserve a chance to be in the playoffs to get in the playoffs. But, I mean, if you're really that good, you should be able to win at least one game. Yeah. And I think, you know, for the NBA, because basketball's been getting kind of stale, you know, it brings excitement into the NBA, you know, and you have a chance for a Cinderella story, actually. You know, I think it's one of those things where, like, say a team who wasn't supposed to get in gets in. You know, you have a chance to, like, kind of like the March Madness, you know, bracket busters and stuff like that. So I think the play-in tournament is positive, and the people that are just really negative about it are just too traditional, in my opinion.
Do you agree?
It is not necessary by any means.
Well, no one said necessary, but is it one of those things that helps improve
with the
it?
the NFL has had 12 teams going into the playoffs, added a 7th seed.
Yes.
So now they have 14 teams going into the playoffs. With the NBA, you already had 16. And now you're making the pool 20. And I'm sorry, I don't want to see a 10th seed playing a first seed when I know it's going to be a sweep or a 4-1 series. It's just so
Are you sure? I mean, but what if that doesn't happen? I mean, is it just going to be a foregone conclusion? It's sports, man.
I mean, it's a game of hypotheticals. I personally don't like it because you have a team like the San Antonio Spurs that made it, and they did not deserve to be in the playoffs. I think there needs to be some sort of, I really don't know how you can do it because it should be like you got to be at least 500 or above.
I mean, if you had like single elimination games, that would be more entertaining. But this is in college. This is professionals. We have 7-game series. If there were 5-game series, you know, I might be more interested in that because, you know, you would have like a 9 seed. You know, say they go all the way through the play-in tournament and get to play a first seed and somehow come out with 3 games. That's more entertaining, but we don't have the 5-game series anymore, so it kind of takes that out. It's just very time-consuming. So
it is. So I want to talk. There were 2 play-in teams that, at the beginning of the year, they were expected to not be in that play-in tournament. You have the Nets and you have the Timberwolves.
Yeah.
I want to start with you. Who's the bigger threat out of those 2 teams?
One team has Kyrie and KD, the other doesn't. I think it's obviously the Nets, in my opinion. I'm sorry. It's just like the Timberwolves, I believe like a few seasons ago, they were the worst team in the league. And they still had Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards on their roster. So it's kind of inexcusable that they're like still in this position and haven't, you know, progressed towards anything. So I'm going to have to go with the Nets.
Yeah, that's not hard to dispute at all. I think when you look at it, the Nets, I mean, Kyrie, you have Kyrie Irving, you have Kevin Durant. You get those guys in the playoffs, it's dangerous. And, you know, the Timberwolves, they've made a couple of strides over the few years, and they're in this position now. But if you're going to bet against the Nets in the playoffs, you're crazy.
I'm going to have a hot take.
So
here.
you're the crazy one, okay?
Yes, I am a crazy one. Look, hear me out. Okay. So the Timberwolves have been playing really hot recently. The Nets have played pretty bad all year. The second half of the year, the Timberwolves, they've gotten hot. Basketball is all about a game of streaks. If you can get on a streak, you can win basketball games. I mean, let's look at North Texas. They won 15 straight games. You get on a streak, you're going to keep winning basketball games. So I think the Timberwolves have that advantage over the Nets. If we're talking strictly talent, yes, it's going to be the Nets.
I'm going to counter argue that just because the 7-game series, you're allowed to adjust to your series. You have an intimate relationship with your opponent because you're seeing them constantly up and close. So you're going to know what they're going to do before they do it. It's just a matter if you're going to be able to stop it or not.
Yeah, and plus, I mean, obviously, if we're going to go talent, then obviously, everyone's going to choose the Nets. But even think about it like experience, guys that have been there before, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, guys who have won it before. You can't bet against guys like that in the playoffs. No streak or streak.
So I want to talk about one of the teams that the Nets are playing, the Celtics.
Yes.
So, Mason, I want to start with you. You have the 76ers and the Celtics in the playoffs. Who is under more pressure to succeed?
Honestly, I'm going to go 76ers. Yeah. I feel like the 76ers have been, over the years, trying to put together this master team where they've been like, okay, we have Embiid, we had Simmons, now we've got Harden. And I feel like the more stars you add to your team, the less excuses you can make. So I feel like the 76ers have to start winning now, or else, we're just going to forget about them like we used to.
Very quickly, do you agree?
Yes, Joel Embiid's been there since 2016. We're supposed to trust in this process of rebuilding, and I'm like, I'm almost done with college at this.
You can only rebuild so much.
The process is still there.
It's taking a while. So.
I got to go with the Sixers because Philadelphia is a brutal sports city. They tried to fire their head coach, Doug Peterson, when they won the Super Bowl the year after they won the Super Bowl. Philadelphia expects you to win, and
like the last time the Sixers were like anything special was Iverson, and before that was Wilt Chamberlain. And like the Celtics, they have 17 rings. Their fans are content. They had Tom Brady. Boston's fine.
Well, coming up next, the #1 team in the nation, they roll into town tomorrow night to take on the UNT softball team.
Oh. What's this? Open that. Oh.
Wait, what?
Hey.
Oh, did I not say? It's kitten season. Every spring cats get busy. Too busy. Thousands of kittens end up in shelters who might not make it out alive because there isn't anyone to take care of them even for a week. You were born to be a cool foster auntie. Kittens are way cuter than babies. No offense. You're a little dirty, but kittens don't judge. Foster a kitten, because it's harder to give a baby back. I've tried.
I rescued Toast from a shelter in 2011. I love Toast because she's a lazy diva. Toast does whatever she wants, obviously. She's sleeping right now. She's an epic snuggler. She's so comforting. She's so loving. Toast makes me laugh. When I walked into the shelter, I knew right then that she was special.
Other for North Texas legend Hope Trotwine, who comes into town with the #1 ranked Oklahoma Sooners. And Hope, for the first time in her career, will be pitching against the Mean Green. She comes into the game tomorrow night with an ERA of .12, the best in the nation, a part of a loaded Oklahoma Sooners roster looking to defend their national championship. And joining me now to discuss tomorrow night's game, I have James Baker and Brendan O'Donnell. Guys, this is going to be a fun one. I mean, the #1 team in the nation is coming into town. James, what have your thoughts been on Oklahoma this year?
I mean, they've just been absolutely dominant. You can't ask for a better start. I think it's 3 years in a row they've had 40-game win streaks.
Yeah.
And then when you combine it with the fact that Hope left the COSA to go to the Big 12 and is still dominating, it's just that team only got stronger.
Do you agree?
I love this team. I mean, Patty Gasol has them doing what they've been doing for years. She's been there, I think, 28 years at this point. They've got 5 championships, 4 in the last 10 years, and it looks like they're on the same route right now to do what they've been doing.
So I want to ask, obviously we have Hope, but this is a very stacked team. Brendan, is there a player that sticks out for you?
Yeah, for me, I've got Jocelyn Alo, the home run leader in all of softball. I believe she's going to hit a couple dingers on us, sadly, but it's what she does. It's what Oklahoma does. It might not just be her. They have a bunch of people, Grace Lyons as well, to just hit home runs.
Do you agree?
I agree. And then, I mean, we're still talking about Hope. Hope, one of the best pitchers in the country.
Yes.
I'm expecting her to play against UNT tomorrow.
I am as well. Jocelyn Alo, as you mentioned, she broke the NCAA home run record. She has over 100 in her career. I want to talk about another pitcher very quickly, Jordan Ball. She probably won't play tomorrow. A true freshman. She has an ERA of .85. To come in as a freshman and be able to pitch as well as she has been absolutely outstanding. Now, you mentioned something earlier about Hope leaving Conference USA, going to the Big 12, the #1 team in the nation, and absolutely dominating. How monumental is that for Hope to leave North Texas and dominate in the Big 12?
Now, I want to say at the game tomorrow, I don't want to see any resentment towards Hope at all. I mean, when you put on a show as well as she does, you don't want to play in front of dozens, you want to play in front of thousands. She left the CUSA to go to the Big 12 and just continues to dominate. I think she is a top 5 UNT player of all time.
Yes.
This is insane. This is Mason Fine going to Alabama. This is huge.
Yeah.
Like, I can't even imagine how great she feels about this. Like how awesome it is that she could go from UNT and earn that extra year because of COVID to go to the #1 school in the nation for softball. Like that is just absolutely amazing.
I think you can make a case that she might be a top 2 or 3 athlete in North Texas history. She leads North Texas in career wins, ERA at 2.05, saves at 15, opponent batting average at 197. She's got strikeouts per 7 innings, 8.11. She has been phenomenal. She had a perfect game last year, the first ever Division I softball perfect game where it was 21 strikeouts. Every single out was a strikeout. She's had 3 games in her career where she's pitched 21 strikeouts. Hope Troutwine has left an absolute amazing legacy here at North Texas. So I want to ask, so we expect her in the circle tomorrow. How's she going to do?
I mean, I got to be a UNT fan, but if Hope pitches tomorrow, it's game over. It's quite honestly, there's no hope for that.
Do you agree?
Oklahoma has shut out many teams this season, and I see us as following along as one of those teams if she plays. She's going to have a lot of pressure on her, but it's Hope. We've watched her do it for 4 seasons here. We know she's going to do it once again for Oklahoma coming back.
Very quickly, I want to ask, do you have a score prediction?
Ooh. I think Oklahoma is going to struggle hitting a little bit. I'm going to go 4-0, though. I think we get shut out.
What do you think?
I think it's going to get the mercy rule. We're going to be down at least 7, 8, 9-0 come to the 6th, 7th inning.
It's going to be tough. I don't know if we get past that 5th inning, but tickets, they're sold out. But if you didn't get a ticket, there is still hope for you because you can go to that right field parking lot. You can park out there and watch Oklahoma try to get their 39th win of the season. And if you're not doing anything Thursday, make sure to come right back here for Thursday's edition of Sportzone. If you're on Instagram or Twitter, make sure to give us a follow at NTTV_sports. And don't go anywhere because coming up next is NTTV's Nightly News.
Here's your check.